The Forbidden Room. The space station floated quietly above a blue planet. Inside, the lights hummed softly, and most people were asleep. But one human was awake. His name was Alex. Alex worked the night shift. His job was boring, walking around the halls, checking doors, and making sure nothing strange happened. But he didn't mind. The station was huge, and he liked the silence. That night, something was different. As Alex walked down Corridor 7, he noticed a faint blue light at the end of the hall. It was coming from a door he had never seen open before. He stopped. That door was always locked. Everyone called it the Forbidden Room. No one ever went inside, and no one ever told him why. Alex stared at the door. The blue light shimmered under the crack. Moving like water. He took a step closer. Maybe someone left it open by mistake, he whispered to himself. But deep down, he didn't believe that. Alex reached the door. He hesitated for a moment. Then, he pressed his hand against the smooth panel. The door slid open with a low hiss. Inside, the air felt warmer, heavier. The walls glowed faintly blue. Strange symbols were carved into the metal. In the center of the room stood a tall glass cylinder. Inside it was someone. Alex froze. It was a woman. No, not exactly a woman. Tall, with silver blue skin and sharp, bright eyes. She wore armor that shone like polished steel, but parts of it were cracked and burned. Her long white hair hung loose around her shoulders, and she was looking right at him. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then she moved. She stepped out of the cylinder and stumbled, catching herself against the wall. Alex instinctively took a step forward. "Hey, are you okay?" Her eyes narrowed. "Don't come closer," she said, her voice low and strange, but somehow understandable. Alex stopped. She took a deep breath. Her armor made a faint clicking sound as she straightened. "You are human," she said. "Yes," Alex answered, confused. "And you?" Her eyes flashed. She looked away. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "I didn't mean to," Alex started, but she cut him off. "Don't watch." "What?" The alien woman looked flustered now. She glanced around the room, almost like she was embarrassed. "Don't watch, human," she whispered again, her voice sharp now. Then she reached for her shoulder and unclipped a piece of her armor. Alex's eyes widened. She was undressing. I can leave if you want," he said quickly, but the door behind him suddenly slid shut. Alex turned and pressed the panel. Nothing happened. The door was locked. He turned back around. The alien woman was already removing her chest plate. Underneath, her skin glowed faintly in swirling patterns of blue and silver. Strange tattoos crawled up her arms and neck. Alex's throat felt dry. "What are you doing?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she knelt on the floor and placed her hands flat against the glowing symbols. A pulse of light spread from her fingers across the floor and up the walls. Alex stepped back, watching as the tattoos on her skin began to shine even brighter. Then she looked up at him, her eyes fierce and a little afraid. "You saw it," she said quietly. "What?" "The mark," she said, pointing to her arms. Yeah. I see it," Alex said carefully. She stood slowly, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. "You shouldn't have seen it," she said. "Now you're marked." "Too." Alex frowned. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, the room's lights flickered. The glowing tattoos on her skin pulsed once, then twice. And then Alex gasped. Blue light suddenly crawled up his own hands, swirling into strange shapes on his skin. "What the?" he shouted, backing up against the wall. The alien woman stepped closer, her eyes on his hands. "It's too late," she said softly. "You can't undo it now." Alex stared at her. his heart pounding. What did you do to me?" he demanded. She tilted her head, her silver hair falling over her face. "I didn't do it," she said. "The room did." Alex looked around at the glowing walls, the strange symbols, the warm air pressing against his skin. And then, faintly, in the distance, an alarm started to sound. Red lights flashed outside the door. The alien woman's eyes widened. "They're coming," she whispered. "Who's coming?" Alex asked, panic rising in his chest. She reached out and grabbed his wrist. "We don't have time," she said. Her grip was surprisingly strong. She pulled him close, her face inches from his. "If you want to live," she whispered, "don't ask questions. And don't watch." Then she let go and turned toward the wall, where a hidden panel slid open. She stepped into the dark passage beyond and glanced back at him. "Well," she said, "are you coming or not?" Alex stood frozen, his hands still glowing faint blue. His heart racing. Behind him, the alarm grew louder. He swallowed hard, looking at the mysterious alien and the dark tunnel ahead. And then, without another word, he stepped after her. The panel slid shut behind them. The forbidden room was empty. Once again, the strange ritual of the tunnel was narrow and dark. Alex could barely see the silver-haired alien ahead of him. She moved fast, her bare feet silent against the metal floor, her glowing tattoos lighting the walls just enough for him to follow. Behind them, faint echoes of the alarm still rang through. The station. Alex's heart was hammering. His hands still glowed faintly blue. He rubbed them against his clothes, but the marks didn't go away. They just shimmered, alive, like they were, watching him. "Where are we going?" he whispered. "Quiet." She snapped without looking back. Alex clenched his jaw and kept moving. The air grew hotter as they descended. The walls of the tunnel were covered in the same strange symbols he'd seen in the Forbidden Room, glowing and shifting like they were alive. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Alex stopped in his tracks. The chamber was shaped like a circle, with walls of black stone that reached high into darkness. In the center stood a raised platform, surrounded by a ring of blue fire that crackled, but didn't give off any heat. Above the platform floated a giant crystal, pulsing faintly, like a heart, and all around the edges of the chamber, carved into the walls, were hundreds of alien figures, warriors, all standing tall, eyes glowing, watching silently. Alex swallowed hard. "This is creepy," he muttered. The alien woman finally turned to face him. "You talk too much," she said flatly. "Yeah? Well, sorry, but being dragged into a glowing death cave by a glowing death lady wasn't on my calendar today." Alex shot back before he could stop himself. For a second, he thought she might hit him. But instead, she just smirked, barely, and shook her head. "You really are human," she said under her breath. She climbed onto the platform, stepping through the blue fire without hesitation. Alex hesitated at the edge. "Ooh, eh? Does that stuff hurt?" he asked. "No," she said, her voice echoing off the walls. "Not yet." Not very comforting. Still, he followed her, and when he stepped through the fire, the strange marks on his hands flared, and the fire parted. Around him, "Whoa," he whispered. The alien woman knelt in the center of the platform. "Sit," she ordered. "Why?" "Because if you stand, you'll die." Alex didn't argue after that. He sat cross-legged in front of her. She closed her eyes, placed her palms flat against the stone, and began to whisper words he didn't understand. The crystal above them started to glow brighter. The marks on her skin and his began to pulse in rhythm with it, faster, faster, until Alex felt like his whole body was vibrating. "What is this?" he asked, his voice trembling. Her eyes snapped open, glowing. completely white now. "This," she said in a voice deeper than before, "is the ritual." "The what?" "The binding ritual," she continued, her hair lifting slightly, as though a wind circled around her. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking now. "You were not supposed to see me," she admitted, "but you did, and the rune chose." "You? The rune chose me?" "Yes," she said simply. "Why me?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached out and pressed her glowing palm against his chest. Immediately, Alex felt a rush of heat shoot through him, like lightning under his skin. He cried out, but her other hand caught his shoulder and held him still. "It hurts because you fight it," she murmured. "Don't fight." He tried to calm himself, but the strange light was crawling up his neck, his face, into his eyes. Then suddenly, it stopped, and everything went quiet. The chamber was still. Alex opened his eyes and gasped. The platform, the walls, even the crystal above them. Everything was glowing brighter now, like it was alive. But most shocking of all, the alien woman was kneeling before him now, her head bowed. "Wait, what are you doing?" he asked. She looked up at him slowly, her expression unreadable. "You are marked," she said. "Yeah, you mentioned that." Alex muttered. She shook her head. "No, you are chosen." Alex blinked. Chosen for what? She stood, towering over him now, her glowing eyes locked on his. "To save my people, or to destroy them?" Alex stared at her, stunned. "Whoa, hold on. I'm just a maintenance guy. Okay? I check doors. I fix broken lights. I'm not your chosen anything." "You don't have a choice anymore," she replied simply. Her tattoos dimmed slightly, and she stepped back, motioning for him to stand. As he did, the marks on his own skin flared to life again, and this time he could feel something powerful under his fingertips. What's happening to me?" he asked quietly. "You are awakening," she said. Then she turned toward the crystal, and suddenly a loud crack split the air. The crystal above them shattered, sending a shock wave of blue light through the chamber. Alex stumbled, shielding his eyes. When he looked again, the walls of the chamber were starting to move. The carved figures were stepping down from the walls, their glowing eyes fixed on him. "What the hell?" The alien woman didn't flinch. "They have seen the mark," she said softly. "What do they want?" "They want to see if you survive." Before Alex could respond, the nearest figure raised a gleaming sword and stepped toward him. The alien woman glanced at him over her shoulder. "Don't run," she said. "Why not?" "They can smell fear." Alex's mouth went dry. The sword-wielding figure stopped just inches away from him. Then it spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "Prove yourself. Human or perish." The alien woman stepped back, her eyes shining, and whispered under her breath, "This is only the beginning." The carved warrior stood before Alex, its glowing sword pointed at his chest. The chamber fell silent. The alien woman stayed back, her expression calm, almost curious. Alex could feel his heartbeat in his ears. His hands burned with the strange blue light, and the marks on his skin pulsed like tiny stars. What do you want me to do?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. The stone warrior leaned closer. Its face was featureless, except for two blazing eyes that seemed to see through him. "Fight," it said. Then, without warning, it swung its sword. Alex flinched, but the blade stopped just before it touched him. The warrior tilted its head, almost disappointed. "You hesitate," it said. "That is weakness." Alex swallowed hard, backing up. The alien woman's voice cut through the silence. "Do not step back, human. If you step back, they will strike for real." Alex froze. The warrior raised the sword again. This time, Alex raised his hands instinctively, and the blue light shot out of his palms, forming a faint shield of energy that stopped the sword. Mid-swing, for a moment, no one moved. Then the warrior slowly lowered its sword. Better. It said. It stepped aside, and another figure climbed down from the wall. This one taller, with a long spear that crackled with white fire. Alex groaned. "Oh, come on. There's more?" The alien woman finally stepped closer. "This is the trial," she said simply. "Trial for what?" "To prove you are worthy of the mark." The second figure advanced. Unlike the first, this one moved fast, stabbing forward with the spear. Alex tried to block again, but the light in his hands flickered. The spear grazed his shoulder, sending a sharp jolt of pain through him. He cried out, but didn't fall. Figure pulled back and nodded. "You endure pain," it said. It too stepped aside. One by one, more and more figures climbed down, each testing him in a different way. One hurled bolts of energy that he had to dodge. One tried to crush him under its massive weight. One surrounded him with blinding light, forcing him to trust his instincts. And through it all, the alien woman watched silently, her glowing eyes never leaving him. By the end, Alex was on his knees, sweating, his hands shaking, his clothes torn. The last figure stood before him, towering and silent. Then it knelt down and placed its hand on his shoulder. The marks on Alex's skin flared one last time, so bright the whole chamber lit up, and then faded back to a quiet blue. The warrior spoke in a low voice. "You are marked. Not by accident, but by choice." Alex stared at it in confusion. "I didn't choose anything." The warrior's eyes glowed brighter. "You think you were chosen today, but the choice was made long before you were born." With that, the warrior stood, stepped back into the wall, and became a carving once more. One by one, all the others followed, until the chamber was empty again. The alien woman walked toward Alex and stopped in front of him. "You survived," she said softly. "Barely," Alex muttered, trying to stand. "You endured," she continued. "Yeah. Thanks for the help. Bye." "The way," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. She ignored him. "You have been tested. You have been marked. Now you must learn what that means." Alex stared at her, his hands still faintly glowing. "Why me?" he asked again. "Why not someone stronger, smarter, someone who wants this?" She tilted her head slightly. "Because you're human," she said simply. "Yeah, I know I'm human." "That's not exactly impressive." "You don't understand," she said, stepping closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're afraid of you." Alex blinked. "Who is?" She turned her eyes upward to the crystal shards still floating above the platform. "The Watchers," she said. "The who?" "They built this place," she explained. "They built me. They even built the trial. But they could never pass it themselves. So they wait, and they watch. And they fear the day a human wakes the mark." Alex ran a shaky hand through his hair. "So, what now? I just go back to my room and pretend none of this happened?" Her eyes narrowed. "No," she said. "Now you come with me." Before Alex could answer, a deep rumbling shook the chamber. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The walls began to crack. "They found us," she said. "Who?" "The hunters," she replied. From somewhere above, a metallic roar echoed. Down the tunnel, followed by the sound of heavy boots and weapons charging. She grabbed his hand, and the marks on both of them blazed to life. "We don't have much time," she said. Alex let her pull him toward a hidden doorway at the edge of the chamber. But just before they stepped through, he glanced back. The crystal shards above the platform had begun to move again, slowly spinning, coming together into a sharp, jagged shape. And then it spoke. Its voice was low and cold, and it filled the whole chamber. "You wear the mark, human. But you do not yet understand its price. Alex froze. What does that mean? He shouted at the crystal, but the alien woman yanked him into the dark tunnel before it could answer. The door slammed shut behind them, and in the distance, the sound of the hunters grew louder. The chase the tunnel shook with the sound of boots and metal claws, scraping against the stone. Alex stumbled after the alien woman, her glowing hand tight around his wrist as she pulled him through the darkness. Behind them, the hunters were coming. He could hear them now, in human voices. Metallic growls, the hiss of charged weapons slicing through the air. What are they? Alex gasped. The hunters, she said, not slowing down. Yeah, you said that. He snapped, struggling to keep up. But what does that mean? They're not alive, she replied. Not the way you are. They were built to destroy anything that wears the mark. Great, Alex muttered. So, me. The tunnel opened into a wide corridor lined with huge pipes and flickering lights. The air smelled of ozone and dust. Up ahead, he saw another door, larger than the rest, with strange gears turning slowly on its surface. She slammed her hand on a glowing panel beside it, and the door groaned as it began to open. Behind them, a shrill, mechanical screech echoed through the tunnel. Alex risked a glance back, and his stomach dropped. Shapes were emerging from the shadows, not human. They crawled along the walls and ceiling like spiders, their bodies made of black metal and jagged. Blades, long claws scraped sparks from the stone as they moved, and their glowing red eyes burned in the darkness. One of them opened its mouth, if it was a mouth, and let out a roar so loud it made his ears ring. Run! She barked. They squeezed through the heavy door just as one of the hunters lunged forward, its claw swiping through the gap and missing Alex's back by an inch. The door slammed shut with a deafening clang. Alex leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. That's it, he said between breaths. Undone. I can't keep. A sharp metallic thunk interrupted him. He turned. On the other side of the door, long, jagged blades began stabbing through the metal, sparks flying. They're cutting through, he said. Yes, she said calmly. Well, what now? She didn't answer. Instead, she placed her hands on the wall, the tattoos on her skin flaring brightly, and the entire panel next to the door slid open, revealing another hidden passage. Come, she said. Alex stared at her, incredulous. Do you just have hidden doors everywhere? She smirked faintly. It's called preparation. You humans should try it sometime. Before he could answer, she stepped through, and he followed. This tunnel was different. Smooth, metallic, and colder. The walls glowed faintly, as if the tunnel itself was alive. And then, the floor began to move. Alex stumbled as the tunnel tilted slightly, then started sliding forward, carrying them like a conveyor belt. What is this? He asked. A way out, she said simply, but he could tell by her eyes that it wasn't going to be that easy. Behind them, the screeching grew louder. The hunters had found the hidden passage. They're following us here? Alex asked. They always follow, she said softly. That's what they're built for. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, bigger than anything Alex had seen yet. A massive hangar. Dozens of alien ships hung suspended above a glowing floor. Strange vehicles, sleek and sharp, hovered silently. And at the far end stood a single ship. Larger than the rest, its surface smooth and silver, humming faintly. She led him straight to it. This is ours, she said. Alex stopped, staring at the ship. That's ours? Yes, she said, placing her palm on its hull. The ship shimmered and opened with a low hiss. Inside, the ship was dim and strange, walls lined with symbols, a faint blue mist swirling around their feet. Alex, barely had time to sit before the alien woman took the pilot's seat. The hunters burst into the hangar just as the ship roared to life. Dozens of them, crawling, climbing, leaping from the walls. Some of them began firing, bolts of red light slicing through the air, slamming into the floor around them. Go, go! Alex yelled. The alien woman didn't flinch. She closed her eyes, and the tattoos on her arms blazed as the ship rose silently from the ground. The hunters swung below them, but the ship shot upward, spinning through a narrow tunnel of light. For a moment, Alex thought they were safe. Then the ship shook violently. They're still following us, she muttered. Alex pressed his face to the window and saw them, several hunters clinging to the outside of the ship, digging their claws into the hull. Can't you shake them off? He shouted. Her hands glowed brighter. Hold on, she said. The ship tilted hard to one side, then flipped completely upside down, throwing Alex against the wall. Sparks rained down from the ceiling as the ship roared through the tunnel, faster and faster. Through the window, Alex saw stars rushing past, streaks of blue and white light blurring together, but the hunters still clung to the hull. There, not letting go. Alex cried. Then we make them, she said. She pressed her palm against a panel, and the ship's surface lit up with brilliant energy. Outside, a blinding wave of light surged across the hull, and the hunters finally lost their grip. Tumbling into the void, the ship steadied, the light outside fading to the quiet darkness of space. Alex collapsed back into his seat, breathing hard. Is it over? He asked weakly. The alien woman didn't answer. She was staring ahead, her hands resting on the glowing controls. Her expression was unreadable. What? Alex asked. She glanced at him finally, her eyes dark and distant. This was only the first wave, she said. Alex blinked. First, what? She looked back out at the stars. They know you carry the mark now. They won't stop, not until they kill you. Or until you become what you're meant to be. Alex stared at her, his stomach sinking. And what exactly am I meant to be? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned back in her seat, closed her eyes, and whispered just loud enough for him to hear. Something even I don't understand. The ship drifted silently into the blackness of space. But behind them, in the distant stars, faint red lights began to appear, dozens of them, moving closer. And Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of the chase. Asterisk, the secret. The ship glided through the quiet black of space. For the first time in hours, maybe longer, there was silence. Alex sat slumped in his seat, staring out the window at the endless stars. His hands still glowed faintly blue, the strange markings pulsing like a heartbeat. He couldn't stop staring at them. He rubbed at the marks, but they didn't fade. They felt like they were inside him now, part of him, and that thought scared him more than the hunters ever had. The alien woman, still silent at the controls, hadn't looked at him since they escaped. She sat perfectly still, her silver hair falling over her shoulders, her hands resting on the glowing panels. Alex couldn't take it anymore. Okay, he said suddenly, his voice sharp in the quiet. What's your deal? She didn't move. He leaned forward. You dragged me into some weird room. You burned these things into my skin. You make me fight stone monsters. Then you throw me into a ship while giant alien robots try to rip me apart. And you still won't tell me what's going on? Finally, she opened her eyes and looked at him. Her gaze was calm, but behind it, something darker lingered. You really want to know? She asked quietly. Yes, Alex snapped. I think I deserve that much. She studied him for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the center of the cabin. You should sit, she said. I am. Sitting. Then hold on. She placed her hands on the floor, and the room around them shimmered and changed. Suddenly, the walls of the ship melted into blackness, and Alex felt like he was floating in space. Stars whirled past him. Planets drifted into view. He gasped, grabbing the edge of his seat. What is this? A memory, she said. Mine and theirs. In front of him, a massive golden planet appeared, beautiful and bright, surrounded by silver rings. Then it exploded. Alex flinched as fire and light tore through the stars. What the hell? The beginning, she said flatly. From the debris of the planet, strange shapes emerged, machines with claws and wings and glowing red eyes. The hunters. They were created to protect, she explained. But they learned to destroy instead. The hunters tore through nearby worlds, wiping out everything they touched. Alex watched as city after city, alien civilizations, crumbled and burned. Who made them? He asked quietly. She looked at him. Humans. Alex froze. What? She nodded. You built the hunters, your ancestors, long before your people forgot who they were. That's not possible, he stammered. Humans didn't even know aliens existed until— Your history is a lie, she interrupted. Memory shifted again, showing tall humans in strange armor, standing above the hunters, controlling them, commanding them to destroy entire species. But why? Alex whispered. To cleanse the galaxy, she said. To make it ready. For what? Even they didn't understand. The memory faded, and the walls of the ship returned. Alex sat back, stunned. So, the hunters were ours? Our fault? She nodded once. And now, she said softly, they hunt you. Because you carry what your kind left behind. Alex stared at his glowing hands. The mark? Yes, she said. The last weapon your people created. The one thing even the hunters fear. Alex laughed bitterly. Oh, great. So I'm carrying a weapon I don't know how to use. Being chased by my own ancestors' murder machines. And the only person who knows what's going on won't even tell me her name. She raised an eyebrow. You never asked, she said. Glared at her. Fine. What's her name? She paused, then said, Leora. Alex blinked. Leora, he repeated. Okay, that's nice. She smirked faintly. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Then the ship jolted suddenly. Alex looked out the window. In the distance. The stars seemed wrong. He squinted. What is that? Leora stood, her expression suddenly serious. They found us, she said. Alex's stomach dropped. What? Already? But it wasn't just the hunters this time. Ahead of them, a massive black ship hung in space, so big it blocked out the stars behind it. Its surface was covered in red lights, shifting like eyes. What is that? Alex whispered. Lior. He didn't answer. The black ship's lights flared brighter. A low, deep sound rumbled through the cabin. Not just noise, but something that rattled Alex's bones. Then a voice filled the ship, cold and inhuman. Human, it said. You carry what does not belong to you. Surrender the mark. Or be unmade. Alex swallowed hard. Well, he muttered, forcing a shaky smile. They sound friendly. Leora didn't smile. Her eyes glowed brighter as she stepped toward the window, her tattoos blazing. She pressed her hand to the glass. They're not here to talk, she said. The black ship began to move, unfolding long, jagged arms that crackled. With red lightning. Alex backed away from the window. What do we do? He asked. Leora turned to him, her expression hard. You, she said. Wake up. He frowned. What does that mean? But before she could answer, the black ship fired. Blinding red beams shot toward them, and the entire ship shook violently, throwing Alex to the floor. Lights flickered. Alarm screamed. Leora caught herself on the wall and shouted over the noise. "The mark will protect you, if you let it." Alex sat up, gripping the edge of the console. "I don't know how." He shouted back. "You will," she said. Black ship fired again, and this time the beam struck the side of their ship. Panels exploded. Flames burst from the ceiling. Alex felt something deep inside him stir, hot and wild, like the mark was alive. His hands flared, brighter than ever, and a strange energy filled the cabin. Leora turned, her eyes wide, but not afraid. "That's it," she whispered. Alex stood slowly, the blue light crawling up his arms and across his chest, until his entire body blazed like a star. Outside, the black ship paused, its weapons falling silent as the red lights blinked uncertainly. And Alex, without thinking, raised his hand. Crack of brilliant light shot from his palm, cutting through the darkness, striking the black ship squarely. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the black ship cracked and split apart, disappearing into a cloud of red sparks. Alex stood there, breathing hard, his skin still glowing. Leora smiled faintly. "You're starting to remember," she said softly. Alex stared at his hands, still shaking. What am I?" he asked. Leora's smile faded, her expression turning serious again. "You," she said, "are the secret they were always afraid of." Outside the window, the debris of the black ship drifted silently, but beyond it, more red lights appeared. In the stars? And Alex realized the real fight hadn't even started yet. Asterisk the battle. The red lights in the stars multiplied. At first, Alex thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But as the ship drifted forward, the truth became clear. The lights were not just stars. They were ships. Hundreds of them. Black and jagged, with claws and wings like predators circling their prey, each one bigger than the last. And they were, all coming straight toward him. Alex's hands still glowed faintly from what he had just done, destroying the black ship with a single blast. But now that glow seemed weak compared to what was out there. He backed away from the window. This is impossible," he whispered. Leora stood at the center of the cabin, her eyes on the swarm ahead. "It's not impossible," she said quietly. "It's just war." Alex let out a dry laugh. "War? No, this isn't a war. This is suicide. Look at them. There's no way we can fight that." Leora finally turned to him. "You already did," she said. He shook his head. "I don't even know how I did that. That thing back there, that was luck." She stepped closer, her silver hair catching the faint blue light of his hands. "No," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "That was power. Your power. You just don't know how to use it yet." Alex clenched his fists. "And what if I don't?" "Want to use it?" he muttered. "Then we die," she said simply. Before he could answer, a deep vibration shook the ship. One of the black ships had fired, a red beam of energy slicing past them and lighting up the darkness. Leora grabbed the flurry. Controls. Her tattoos flaring bright white as she pulled the ship into a sharp dive. Alex was thrown into his seat as the stars spun around him. Behind them, the hunter fleet began to move faster, closing in like a pack of wolves. Bolts of red energy shot past, some grazing their hull, some exploding in blinding bursts of light. Leora maneuvered through the chaos like she had done this 1,000 times before, spinning between enemy ships, diving into narrow gaps, dodging blasts that came within, inches of destroying them. But no matter how fast she moved, the hunters kept coming. "They're not letting up," Alex shouted. "They won't," she replied. "Not until you make them." Alex slammed his hands on the console. "I told you, I don't know how." "You do," she said, her voice steady. "Then tell me." She glanced at him, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Stop being afraid," she said. Her words hit harder than he expected, but fear still clawed at his chest, no matter how hard he tried to shove it down. "I can't," he yelled back. Leora's gaze softened. "Just a little. You already have," she said, her voice lower now. Before Alex could argue, a massive shockwave rocked the ship. One of the hunter vessels had latched onto them, its long claws sinking. Into their hull sparks rained from the ceiling as alarms screamed around them. Leora cursed under her breath and slammed her hand on a control panel. The ship lurched sideways, trying to shake the hunter off, but it held tight. Alex looked out the window and saw it, a black, insect-like creature, crawling along the outside of the ship, its red eyes burning into him. More of them were coming, leaping from ship to ship through the vacuum of space, claws outstretched. "We're surrounded," Alex shouted. Leora turned to him, her expression suddenly fierce. "Then stop acting like prey," she growled. Something in her tone made him freeze. She reached out and grabbed his wrist, forcing his glowing hand toward the window. "Focus," she said through gritted teeth. Focus." The hunters outside began tearing into the hull, sparks flying as metal screeched and buckled. Alex closed his eyes. He could feel the mark now, not just on his skin, but deeper coiled inside him like a storm waiting to break. He took a breath, then another, and slowly he let it out. His body began to glow, brighter than before, the blue light spreading through him, until he felt like he was on fire. The hunters outside froze. They could see it too. Alex opened his eyes, and the marks blazed like lightning. He pressed his hand against the window. The air crackled. Then a shock wave of blinding blue light erupted from his palm, tearing through the vacuum of space, ripping the hunters from the hull and hurling them back into the void. One by one, the closest hunter ships exploded as the light reached them, scattering them into debris and dust. For a few seconds there was silence. Alex staggered back, breathing hard, his hands still glowing faintly. Leora stared at him, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You see?" she said. Alex shook his head, still in shock. "What? What was that?" She tilted her head slightly. "Your ancestors called it dominion," she said. "The ability to command energy, to turn thought into force, to bend reality itself." Alex swallowed hard. "That doesn't sound possible." Leora's smile faded. "It's not supposed to be," she said. But before Alex could respond, the remaining hunters regrouped. More red lights flared in the distance, far more than before. Thousands of ships began to move toward them, forming into a massive wall of black and red. "This is endless," Alex said under his breath. "No," Leora said firmly. "This is war." The hunter fleet opened fire, thousands of beings converging on their small ship all at once. Leora grabbed the controls, and the ship shot forward into the storm of red light. Alex braced himself, the glow on his skin growing hotter as he reached for the window again. "Do not stop," she told him. He glanced at her, surprised. "You're trusting me to do this?" She met his eyes. "I have to," she said simply. Their ship broke through the first wave, spinning between enemy fire as Alex focused on the mark inside him, letting it grow, letting it burn. The blue light around them grew brighter and brighter, until the entire battlefield glowed. The hunters faltered, confused, as if they were afraid. Alex stood, his hands pressed to the glass. "You wanted me," he said softly. "Come and get me." Then, with a roar that shook the stars, the light inside him exploded outward, tearing through the hunter fleet like a rising sun. The black ships cracked and fell apart, red lights blinking out one by one as the wave of power swept through them. When it was over, only silence remained, The battlefield was empty, debris drifting quietly in the dark. Alex collapsed into his seat, breathing heavily. Leora looked at him, her expression softer now, but still serious. "This is just the beginning," she said. Alex stared out at the stars, the faint glow still dancing across his hands. "I know," he whispered far in the distance, beyond the wreckage. Something stirred, something bigger than anything they had seen yet. The final battle was still waiting, and Alex could feel it watching him already. The choice the battlefield was quiet now, dead quiet. Fragments of hunter ships floated past the She window, glowing faintly as they drifted into the endless dark. Red lights blinked and died one by one, leaving only the silence of space. But Alex could feel it. Something was still out there, watching, waiting. He sat back in his seat, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His hands still glowed faintly blue, but the light felt different now, stronger, darker. Our eye stood by the controls, her eyes fixed on the far edge of the stars. Her expression was unreadable, but her knuckles were white where they gripped. The console, she could feel it too. Alex finally spoke. "What is it?" he asked quietly. Leora didn't look at him. "It," she said softly, "is the one thing even the hunters obey." Alex frowned. "You mean a leader?" She shook her head. "No, not a leader. A judge." Before Alex could ask what that meant, the ship's lights flickered and the stars outside shifted. Something moved in the distance, something so big that Alex couldn't see where it began or ended. The stars behind it disappeared. As it advanced, like someone was blotting out the sky itself, and then it spoke, not out loud, but inside his mind. Its voice was cold, deep, and ancient. Human. Alex flinched as the sound rattled through his skull. "You carry the mark, the last weapon, the last curse. You do not understand what you hold." Alex swallowed hard, gripping the armrest of his seat. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am what comes after," it answered. "I am the end of all choices." The shape continued moving closer. Even now, Alex couldn't fully see it, only hints of jagged metal and endless eyes. 1,000 red lights blinking across its impossible form. Leora finally turned to him. "This is it," she said. Alex stared at her, confused. "What?" She stepped closer, her expression deadly serious. "The mark doesn't just destroy," she explained. "It chooses." Alex shook his head. "I don't understand." She placed her hand gently on his shoulder, her tattoos glowing faintly. "You felt it already, haven't you? The power, the rage, the hunger." He hesitated. "Yes." Leora nodded slowly. "The mark was made by humans to end everything, to wipe the galaxy clean if they decided nothing was worth saving. But the choice was never theirs to finish. It became yours." Alex stared at his glowing hands, his stomach twisting. "What are you saying?" She met his eyes. "You can destroy it all. Every hunter, every judge, every star if you wish. Or you can spare them. You can let the galaxy live, but you must choose." Alex felt cold all over. "That thing," he said, nodding toward the darkness outside. "What happens if I don't choose?" Leora looked back at the creature. "Then it decides for you," she said softly, "and it never spares." The ship's lights flickered again, and Alex felt the mark burning inside his chest now, spreading like fire through his veins. His hands blazed brighter than ever, and the air around him began to crackle. The creature outside spoke again. "Human, give it to me. Let me end this. You were never meant to carry it." Alex clenched his fists. "And what happens if I don't?" He shouted back. For a moment, there was silence. Then you burn." The ship groaned and shook as the creature stretched out a long, black arm toward them, claws as big as cities curling around their tiny ship. Leora stepped back, watching Alex with an unreadable expression. "You have to decide," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex closed his eyes. The mark inside him roared, showing him flashes of what he could do. He saw the galaxy burning in blue light, stars collapsing, hunter fleets shattering into dust. He saw planets crumbling under his hands, entire civilizations erased in seconds. And yet, he also saw something else. He saw the hunters falling silent, the judge retreating, stars shining again, planets growing green and alive. Peace. If you let it live. Alex opened his eyes. The creature's claws tightened around the ship, and its voice thundered again. "Choose, human." Leora stood still, watching him. Alex stood slowly, the glow of the mark burning so bright. Now the whole cabin was bathed in blue light. He took a deep breath and spoke. "No." The creature paused. "No?" Leora repeated, frowning. Alex clenched his fists, his whole body blazing now. "I won't let you choose for me," he said to the creature. "And I won't burn it all just because I can." He raised his hand, the light gathering into a blinding sphere above his palm. "I choose something else," he said. The creature hissed, its claws tightening, but Alex thrust his hands forward. The mark unleashed its full power, not to destroy, but to push. A wave of blinding energy swept through the void, tearing the creature's claws from the ship and forcing it backward. The judge howled, its red lights blinking out one by one as it was hurled back into the dark. The hunter ships scattered, their red eyes dimming as the mark's light washed over them. And then, one by one, they fell still. Silence. When the light faded, the creature was gone. The hunters drifted like dead leaves in the quiet black, and Alex stood there, still glowing faintly, his breath steady. Leora stared at him, her expression unreadable, but there was something like respect in her eyes now. "You spared them," she said finally. Alex nodded. "I spared myself," he said softly. He looked at his hands, the light fading slowly now, and let out a long breath. Then he turned to Leora. "So, what happens now?" She smirked faintly. "Now," she said, "you make sure they never forget who you are." Alex smiled, a little tired, but certain, and looked out at the stars. For the first time, they didn't look so far away. And somewhere out there, in the quiet of the galaxy, he swore he heard the creature's voice, faint and cold. "We will see, human." But Alex just stood a little straighter, because this time the choice was his. And he wasn't afraid anymore. The E and D